Welcome everybody. We'll get started and people can join in as they join in. Welcome to another IHN evening webinar. I'm Jason Madden. I'm the campus manager of the IHN Vancouver campus, as well as program advisor for IHN Online. And today I'm joined by Dr. Olivier Barré, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about some Eastern TCM philosophy around food versus Western. So Dr. Olivier Barré earned his PhD in biochemistry biomedicine with honors from the University of Bern in Switzerland, where he worked on copper homeostasis in bacteria and humans. Olivier continued in a postdoctoral position at UBC doing research on breast and prostate cancer. And at a young age, he developed an intrigue and passion for Chinese medicine. Olivier decided to change his career path and obtained his traditional Chinese medicine practitioner diploma from the International College of TCM of Vancouver in 2013. Olivier fulfilled his dream of opening his own integrated practice in downtown Vancouver in 2016 and works as a TCM practitioner. His vision has always been to combine his Western science background with the natural holistic approach of traditional Chinese medicine. Olivier teaches biological chemistry and body metabolism at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition's Vancouver campus. So join me in welcoming Olivier. Olivier, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome. So we'll have questions at the end. You can put your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom there. And feel free to chat throughout the lecture. Olivier probably won't be answering questions during the lecture, but you can communicate with each other, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end. All right, over to you, Olivier.
Thank you, Jason. First of all, thank you everyone for joining me and joining us. Thank you, Jason and IHN for the opportunity for this webinar. I really appreciate it. I'm really happy that I have the opportunity to share my passion for traditional Chinese medicine. I really would like you to understand a bit better what it is and how does that work. And today would be maybe a slight introduction for those who didn't have the chance to follow me in another webinar. So I hope you will like it. We'll start to share my screen and we'll start the talk. So please feel free to post questions, and I will do my best to answer your questions afterwards. Maybe some of you don't know me, and then Jason introduced me briefly. So my name is Olivier. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner here in Vancouver. I've been having my own clinic now. It's exactly 5 years. A few days ago was basically the anniversary of the 5 years. And then I'm originally from France. Those are my parents, so you can see it looks like my dad. I'm originally from France and Paris, and I always had a passion for medicine and Chinese med. I was born with only one hand, nothing like due to any medicine, just the umbilical cord that tugged around my wrist and blocked the blood supply, so my hand could not grow. But this did not change anything for me. I was like really pushing for whatever. I can do everything that anybody else. And if you join my con ed, you will see me like doing like cooking like a chef. I will, during this, that basically also pushed me to learn a bit more about medicine and try to understand why I became this way or why I was born this way. So I wanted to be like more in medicine and biochem biomed. So I did most of my graduate in Paris in France, and then I moved to Switzerland when I worked on copper homeostasis in bacteria, but also I was working on developing a test for rare disease called Wilson disease that touches 1 person over 30,000. That's a mutation, genetic disorder that blocks the transport of the copper, so copper can get inside your liver but cannot get out. Usually this poses problem over like you may have this disease, but you don't realize it around like 30 or 40 years old. When you start having issues with like thinking, your brain, and people feel like you either like you have dementia or Alzheimer's disease, but actually it's not this. And then when they test your liver, they find out you have Wilson disease. The problem is like to test your liver, they need to do biopsy, which is very invasive. So during my PhD, I found a way to just take a blood test and to develop a test to actually diagnose Wilson disease this way, which awarded me a fellowship to come here to Canada and Vancouver to do research on breast and prostate cancer. So after 1 year financed by Switzerland, I got 2 more years financed by Canada. And then I got sick and decided that I wanted to change my career and go back to what I really wanted to know, because I've been receiving acupuncture since I'm 8, and I was really fascinated in how small needles can actually work on me. So I was like, okay, let's go back to school and learn about Chinese medicine. So that's what I did. And then I basically went to China twice. The first time to learn about Trina. Trina is a mix between Caro, physio, massage. And second time to do acupuncture. And a couple of years ago, I opened my own clinic. But maybe some of you have seen me as well, because I have a very famous twin brother. Maybe some of you may know about it. Just to joke a little bit. I wish I could be as Leonardo, but I'm not. So let's move along about the subject of the day, which is Western versus Eastern food, similar, very different. So why did I wanted to talk about this today? It's because the past year and a half, I've been focusing a lot about fitness and nutrition. So yes, this talk will be focusing a lot about the fitness and fitness industry in some ways, but you can still apply it to regular, like, healthy diet if you want to. Why I'm so passionate about this is because I had a talk with a lot of fitness trainers, a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of athletes. And when you talk to them, basically they look always in the same way to train people, to help them, to help people. When you talk also about fitness, you talk also a lot about, like, people want to go to fitness also to lose weight. So that was also another thing, because in my practice, I have a lot of people who wants to lose weight, and I wanted to see, what do you do in terms of training, but also in terms of nutrition? What's your approach? How do you do the meal plan? And what's the most important for you to help your clients to get to lose weight? And then I could take some of it and then look into my practice, look at Chinese medicine, see, okay, what can I take? What can I not do? Or what should I do to optimize it? So that's what I did. And when I look at the concept of the Western science or Western med regarding the fitness, I could see that they were doing always the same thing. So most of the trainers, when they do this, let's say 50% of the time, not all the time, they will start by actually looking at your body type. So based on the body type, they will look at either if your body type is an ectomorph, an endomorph, or mesomorph. You have the description of each of them underneath. The thing is, it gives a better idea or better understanding for them, like what would be your body type. So how you can actually, based on your body type, design a training program or design a meal plan. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as it sounds, because we don't have 100%, we are not 100% one type. We have always mix of types. And then what they do in general, they take the most higher amount of percentage of one of the body type to actually design the training program and design the meal plan. So for example, let's say I'm 70% endomorph, and at the same time 30%, let's say, mesomorph. So then the design will be based on the 70% endomorph. So it's not that always easy. It would be so easy if it would be like only one type exactly. So it's not that common, and we always have a mix. So it's not that easy. There is another way that they look at the body type, which is the more based on the shape of your body, which in my opinion is a bit better, because everyone has a very specific shape, and you can see the characteristic of the body shape. It's either a pear, inverted triangle, apple, rectangle, or hourglass. Here is like you have the definition of all of this. So you can, in my opinion, like it's a bit better. It's closer or similar to what we would do in terms of Chinese medicine, but mostly based on the shape, not really relying on what's happening inside your body. The other thing, when I look at all of these training programs and meal plan they design for their clients, I found that they base always on the same thing, which is mostly the macros. They look at the macros. For them, that's the most important. Again, you guys are all in IHN, so you know about the macros, the amount of proteins, the carbs, and the fat. And how this is included in your diet. They focus mostly on the macros. They don't talk so much about the macronutrients, like in terms of like vitamins, antioxidants. They don't talk so much about it. They really focus on the macros because they have a specific goal. Now, to get the macros inside the meal plan and to design the meal plan based on the macros, they usually rely on one thing, which is calculating the calories. Calories counting has been like here for like years, And some people are for, some people are against. And I will show you a little bit of pitfall regarding this as well, still in terms of Western science, Western medicine. But usually what we do, let's say if I'm an example, I want to lose weight, we'll try to be a calorie deficit. That means that we try to burn more calories than we will take in our body. So technically, if you have more out than in, you should lose weight. The maintenance calories would be in and out equal, and then the surplus would be more in than out. For the calorie surplus, this is often used as well in the fitness industry for people who try to bulk up a little bit, even though you have to be very careful because bulking up, usually they try to get more like muscle mass, but if you don't pay too much attention, it can translate into too much fat as well. So you have to be very careful. Regarding the calorie deficit, I've seen a lot of like plans or meal plans from people and training program where basically the calorie deficit is too much. So you have to be also very careful how to design your calorie deficit, and how usually personal trainer do. They will take, let's say, they will ask you the first time, they will get your height, they will get your weight, they will measure your body mass index, and also they will basically, based on that, they will make the meal plan and training program. But at the same time, they will calculate what macros you need specifically for your maintenance calories. Based on this amount of calories for this maintenance, they will actually create a deficit. So the best trainers will actually decrease about, let's say, 15 to 20%. And then some of like very, very not so great trainers will push you to get way more calorie deficit that will actually make your body really in calorie deficit and very tired over time, with higher risk of injuries, not recovery properly. So you have to be careful with that as well. And based on this calories deficit now, based on your goal, so let's say my goal is to lose weight, I will make my meal plan and make the meal plan according to the macros. So let's say I want to be calorie deficit. Now, how can I make my macros to be in calorie deficit? So let's say for weight loss, what they will do, usually you look at the meal plan program, and we'll see an example later on. You will have mostly like it's a high protein diet, low carbs, low fat. For the maintenance, you can see it's moderate everywhere, and muscle gain usually high protein, high carb for that. That's how they will design it. That's a way to do it. There are some other ways, and we'll see it a different approach later on. Now here, when I look at the program as well, in the meal plan, you have a very common like systematic approach, and you have a common food that is coming all the time. No matter what meal plans, no matter trainers, you will always some type of food that will come back all the time because this food is known to be low in calories, not too much carb or not too much fat. And because of that, they will be using in many of these meal plans. Now, there are some differences as well because some of the food they will use in terms of calories. So let's say if I look at the broccolis, here it's the macros is most likely done when it's uncooked. So they give you and tell you that broccoli is like the 1 cup of broccoli is around 56 calories. You can see you have like some carbs, some fibers and proteins. But let's say this is based on uncooked. So if you will eat raw broccolis, that's how it would be. Now, if you do cook this broccoli, would that change this composition? And we'll see later on that it does actually. And that's why the calorie count can be a little bit modified when you cook your food as well. Most of the program I also look at, I found that the techniques they use all the time is most likely raw food, either baking or roasting, a little bit of steaming, but that's it. It's most likely raw food and baking. But there's not much diversity in terms of like food itself, like the type of food, and also not much diversity in terms of like methods of cooking to help the client or the patient. So I would like to show a little bit some different things about that. So here's an example of broccoli very, very well used in the fitness industry to lose weight. You can see low calories, very good for you. This also doesn't show you how much micronutrients that is important inside this food itself. And you could see as well like how these macronutrients will be actually like changing as well if you cook the food. That's very, very interesting as well. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Another type of food which is well used in this fitness plan is avocado. You can see like many people will use avocado. You will see in the typical like meal plan I got for you from trainers. You will have some as well. You can see that avocados, everybody knows it contains a lot of fat. So that's why it's way higher in calories. But we still need fats even though we want to lose weight because fats are important for energy, for making the cells membrane, for steroids, hormones. So all of this is very important. So that's why they use it a lot. But again, they don't talk to you about like, usually the avocado, they will put it in more like in a smoothie or like eating in a salad, but they won't talk about like any other method of cooking, baking or steaming or some other things. So this will have also a huge impact and you will see this afterwards. Very common meat, source of proteins used in training programs and meal plan is basically chicken breast. The chicken breast or turkey breast is considered as very lean meat, not so much fat, very good for people to gain protein and amino acids and low calories, right? So you can see here only 34 calories for 1 ounce of chicken breast. So that's not that bad, right? So if you have a training program, you're losing weight, you get a lot of proteins, but you don't have much calories. So that means that you can increase the amount of like chicken breast, so you will feel full, but you won't gain too much fat. Another one, very, very important as well, you can see is spinach. Spinach is very interesting food, in my opinion. If you look at the uncooked spinach, you have like, these different macros, and the calories is very low. And usually you get spinach also used a lot with avocados in smoothies and in salads. That's very common too. I would like to illustrate a little bit the problem with the fact that they use it mostly in salad and smoothie only. Spinach is very known for having a lot of oxalate amount when it's uncooked. Oxalate is very common chemical compound over there. And the oxalate has a big issue for a few reasons. If you have too much oxalate inside your body, you increase the risk also to get oxalocalcic stones, which would be kidney stones. So you have higher risk if you eat too much spinach, and if you also eat too much, let's say, calcium, you may end up having too much, like you can get kidney stones if your body doesn't integrate it properly. So that's one problem. Second thing of having too much oxalate as well from raw spinach is also like, it has been shown that oxalate decreases the absorption of iron and calcium as well. So by eating too much spinach, you decrease your absorption of calcium and iron. So again, also it has been shown that if you eat raw spinach, you have way less beta carotenes and less vitamins absorbed as well. So you can see the cooking method has a huge impact on bioavailability of micronutrients, but also macronutrients. I will show you just in a little bit. We use this spinach, and I will show you when you cook it versus uncook it and how this can change a lot of things only in terms of macros. And after that, a little bit about the micronutrients as well. So here I took an example of like a meal plan, let's say for a day. So a day of a meal plan for a person who wants to lose weight based on fitness training and Western aspect. So usually in breakfast, they would recommend you like, let's say a green smoothie. You can see the green smoothie is made of like half a banana, half a cup of frozen mango, some kale, some low-fat Greek yogurts, avocado, small avocado amount, and low-fat, non-fat milk. Sometimes you can find also some like like cashew milk or almond milk as well to do this. You can see it's like very like if you think in terms of macros, if you think in terms of Western aspect, it's very balanced. You see like not so much carb, but mostly like fibers, a bit of fat and proteins, but not so much carbs, right? So, but if I look as well in terms of composition as well, usually green smoothies or smoothies in general tend to be more on the colder side because everyone will add a little bit of ice cubes inside to make it more cold because it's theoretically said that actually ice water or ice drinks will help you to increase your metabolism, which is actually not true, but that's how it is. And you can see in terms of calories, it's not that much, 340 calories for that smoothie. It's okay, you can handle it. Now, they will always recommend between 4 to 6 meals a day. So like 3 main, let's say, a meal, and then 2 or 3 snacks as well. Research has shown recently that you should have mostly between 3 to 4 meals a day. Having too much is not that great because of the insulin resistance. The second thing is also the way you distribute your meals are very important. So you can go, there are some people, some trainers will recommend having like a big breakfast, a medium lunch, a very small like dinner. So put most of the calories upper in the day. And some people will do the opposites because they will increase the training load at the end of the day. So they want to replenish after the training. Research have been shown as well that when you do a morning, like a higher amount, let's say in the early part of the day, higher amount of calories over there and less at the end of the day, you're actually burning more calories. So it depends again what you want to achieve, but that's something also to consider if you're interested in this aspect. So you will have a snack, a morning snack, usually a fruit and some nuts. You see not too much calories. Most of the calories are coming from the nuts, right? They're very caloric. Still amount of a little bit of fat and proteins, not so much, a little bit of carbs and mostly fibers from the apple, but not too much carbs. Lunch, cups of like home veggie soup. In my opinion, that's very good, even though it's, in my opinion, a little bit light for lunch. But in terms of like food itself, I think it's a good idea. You get a bunch of like a good nutrients over there. So very, very good in my opinion. And also it's warm because it's soup. So that's actually great. We'll talk more about this afterwards. After the snack, usually they will offer always a little bit of like some baby carrots or snap peas, and then always with a bit of hummus. So a little bit of carbs and a little bit of like, fibers again. And for dinner, in my opinion, the dinner is not too bad. Except that maybe you could add a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more carbs. I found their meal for weight loss here is like very, very low in carbs, even though we still need some. I think it's, in my opinion, it's too low. Everybody will decide what they want to do, but I would say the dinner is actually quite okay. But if you look again, you can see that the amount of food is actually like not so much in the morning, and as we go during the day, the dinner is the most important meal of the day, right? So you go in the opposite as what I was saying before. So because dinner, they probably went for like heavy lifting or training earlier than that, so they need to replenish. So you still have a huge amount of like protein, like a huge amount of salmon, which also have a lot of like good fatty acids, carrots and broccolis, a lot of fibers. Teriyaki sauce, maybe not the best, but it gives you a little bit of like sweetness and a bit of carbs, and sesame seed as well for the fatty acids. So I would say the dinner, in my opinion, so far in this example is actually not too bad, in my opinion. But missing maybe a little bit of things. We'll see how later on how I would change it more according to TCM and why. And usually at the end of the day, after later on during the night, couple of maybe in 1 hour or 2 hours before bed, they will recommend to get kind of a protein shake usually. So they will use frozen berries and some whey proteins. So you can see all over, if I consider the amount of calories, if I consider the amount of like, macros, I don't have too much of like carbohydrates, mostly like proteins and a little bit more, a bit of fat, but not so much carbohydrates. And I have a total of like around, let's say 1800 calories. So let's say it depends who is this. Let's say for myself, if I would be like doing this kind of things, it would be a bit too less in my calories. Like roughly my maintained calories should be around like 2400 calories. Going to 1800s for the day, it's a little bit too much. I should be like maybe around like maybe 2000. So I miss around 200 calories. I should add a little bit more calories. And personally, my body would require a little bit more like carbs as well. So again, this could be good for certain people, but again, not everyone could actually this. So if you look at this training plan, they always have the same. Modify maybe a little bit, but most likely all the same. And they don't care so much about the body type and the person they have in front of them. They try to be more automated. So it's a little bit not so great in my opinion. They should modify it a little bit. And that's why I want to talk about it, because I would like you guys later on when you make meal plans for your clients, you focus a lot about your clients and what their needs and how they are and how is their body. The other thing I want to quickly mention here as well is like you have a lot of uncooked food as well. All these training meal and training plans are not taking into account how is my client's digestive system? Do I have good like stomach acid or not? Can I digest very well or not? This is not taking into account. And that's very important because if you do a high protein diet, you need to make sure that you can digest it and you can actually absorb it very well. All the absorption part and digestive part is not taking account in all of these training and meal plans. So that's something very important to keep in mind. So as I mentioned before, all of these meal plans and these trainers will actually look at the food based on the calories and the macros, and they will recommend mostly to eat raw food, sometimes roasting and baking. You see a lot of like roasted veggies, baking veggies, bake, let's say, turkey breast or chicken breast, right? Maybe a little bit of steaming, but very rarely I found. So that's how it is. Now I talk about how the cooking and the methods of cooking will influence a little bit the bioavailability and the composition of the food. So here's an example. I was talking about the spinach earlier. You have a comparison of a spinach when you take 1 cup of spinach that you boiled and then you drain compared to a spinach and cook, and you look at the same macros. So you see, like, in terms of carbohydrates, the cooking will actually decrease the carbohydrates, but actually the cooking will actually increase the amount of fiber and the amount of proteins, kind of like very significantly. So let's say if I would eat only spinach raw, and instead of eating my spinach a bit more cooked, I could actually, like, I go from 1 to 5 grams. So I have 5 times more protein in my cooking spinach for the same amount. Now people will tell me, well, I want to lose weight, but for the same cup, in one side I had only 12 calories. Now I have like 41 calories. So basically 3.5 times more, right? So it's not that great. Well, I still have 1 cup of spinach. In one side I have good calories, have way more fibers, way more proteins. So I feel more filled up, have also more accessible and bioavailability to nutrients. I kill my oxalate or decrease my oxalate, which will increase my calcium and iron absorption, and I will get way more vitamins from it. So at the end of the day, which one is better? I would suggest, can we do both? Yes, you can. Can you do raw food and cooked food? Yes. But again, we need to see as well who is in front of us. What's the digestive system of our clients? Is our digestive system of our clients is more prone to, like, let's say, warm food and cooked food? Is it easier for him not feeling bloated, not feeling tired after meals? Or is it like, he needs something to cool him down, and that's why spinach, raw spinach, is actually better for him or for her, right? So you still need to look at who is in front of you and to whom you design this meal plan. That's very important. But I hope I could show you here that cooking actually can change completely the composition of the food, not always in a bad way. We'll see in the next slide, there was a study made in 2018 showing like how the different method of cooking can influence the amount of vitamin C and vitamin K. So you have like different methods, like raw. We look at the broccoli raw. Either we boiled for 5 minutes, we blanch for 3 minutes, steaming is only 5 minutes, and microwave for 3 minutes. So you can see when you do this and you calculate the amount of vitamin C, you can see like when you steam or microwave, you get way more amount of vitamin C like from my broccoli versus raw. Now, if I boil it, because I boil it for maybe too long, or maybe the cooking method is not adapted specifically for the vitamin C, and then I will destroy it. So definitely we need to look at what veggie I want to use and what method of cooking is adapted to get the best out of it. So there is way more than training plan. We need to consider, or meal plan. We need to consider more about who is the person in front of us, what's his digestive system, and then what kind of like food we want to give and the method of cooking. All of this aspect is very important to give the optimum result to our clients. Now, how does that work in terms of like, was more about Western science, Western medicine in some ways. Now, how does that work in terms of traditional Chinese medicine? Traditional Chinese medicine is a very old medicine, has more than 3,000 years. And you can imagine during this time, they had no idea about like macros, calories, like they didn't know about these kind of things. They relied mainly on 2 specific principles that was basically the yin and the yang and the 5 element theories. The yin and the yang is most likely your warming and your cooling system. The 5 element theory, you have the wood, the fire, the earth, the metal, and the water. you can see like each element has a specific organ that is associated with, specific color. They will have a specific flavor as well, and other things linked to that. So based on these two, what we are able to do, based on this, we are able to diagnose the patients and understand what is his body type. So here is like kind of like some ideas of body type we can get or commonly can actually see in patients. However, again, same as the body type we saw earlier for the Western science part, these are basic and only textbook. Unfortunately, it's not always as easy as you think. But you can have neutral body types, so basically no one is like most likely balanced. We can have what we call Qi deficiency, we can have Yang deficiency, we can have Yin deficiency, we can have damp heat, we can have Qi stagnation, blood stagnation. So there are a lot of like things that can happen there. And based on the theories of the Yin and the Yang and the 5-element theory, we can get this body type. Now, once we know this body type, what can we do? This body type will tell us exactly what's going on with the body of the person. So if I know what's going on with the body of the person, I can say, okay, my person is a Yang deficiency. What does that mean? Yang is the warming system, so their warming system is going down. Do you think if the warming system is going down, it's as if like you would have your heating system that you put wood in to make fire, that you have almost low wood, so the fire is very small, right? So what do you feel? You don't feel that warm, right? You feel cold. You have cold hands, cold feet, right? You feel tired. Your muscles are not that strong, right? That's why exactly what happened with a Yang deficiency. So do you think that this Yang deficiency person will actually like things like is most likely like raw food, icy cold water, ice cream, like these kind of things? Probably not. This person will have to basically, we need to nourish basically the root, the Yang. We need to give them more wood, more fire, right? So we need something that will actually nourish this. So something more warming, right? Because it needs warmth. Usually it's kind of interesting because people will always say like, oh, somehow I crave this type of food. I don't know why, but I crave this. Our body kind of naturally knows exactly what we need and will tell you. It's kind of very interesting. So let's say if I want to be general regarding the Chinese medicine, I could say, okay, remember the 5-element theory, the 5 different colors. So we have the green, the red, the yellow, the white, and the blue-black that go for each of the elements. Could I use this way to actually make my diet? And then if I have like all these 5 colors, can I have a balanced diet? Definitely. That's one way to look at it. We can use the 5 colors. So each food, if you look at your food we have some food that is green, some food that is more red, some food that is more like actually like black, some of them more white, some of them more yellow, right? And this color, if I have all of this different type of food, that will be like balancing all of my organs. So do you think that will make my body more like balanced and less like more Yang deficiency or Qi deficiency? Totally. Have you ever wondered so far why this detoxification or cleansing program will always like, let's say, use green? Like you always have green smoothie, like green juice or green stuff like that. You always have like some celery, spinach, kale, all these kind of things. Why? Because all of these green colors is most likely for the wood element. And wood element is basically specific to the liver. So then why? The liver is the most detoxification organ in our body. So obviously, if I eat a lot of green stuff, I will help my liver function. So then I will feel much better. That's why, right? So that's one way to look at it. And that's one way we look at it in Chinese medicine. We look at the different colors. Now, same thing as for the 5 elements. We have 5 different colors. We have also 5 different flavors. We have sour, bitter, sweet, pungent, and salty that represent the different elements from the 5 elements. So I can use, let's say, sour for my wood, bitter for my fire, sweet for my earth, pungent for my lung, and salty for my water. Now, the beauty of it, you can actually mix and match. For example, I'll take an example. If I look at kale, kale is most of the kale, let's say, I would find in nature is green, right? I know you have purple and you have some other as well, but let's say green. My kale is green. So because the color of the kale is green, you can say, okay, green is the color of wood, so it will help my liver. Like, okay. But kale, by nature, has also a bitterness. It's also bitter. So because it's bitter, the bitter flavor will help basically my fire element. So for one time I will eat kale, I will actually help my liver and help my heart at the same time, which is great because you don't need to eat either only of the 5 flavors or only the 5 colors. You can actually mix match and have only certain color that will be different flavor at the same time, and actually you get everything balanced. Can you eat only from the 5 flavors or from the 5 colors only and don't care about the rest? Yes, you can. But in my opinion, it's very, very easy just to get only a couple of them, then you can mix and match. It's a bit easier. Now, there is another property that people don't care about, and I can see this all the time, is what we call the 5 intrinsic thermal properties. This is only like very common in, I would say, in Ayurvedic medicine or any traditional medicine. We'll look at the body itself, but we look at the food as thermal property. Each food, it's either cold, cool, neutral, warm, or hot by nature. That's their nature. That's how they are in general when you find them raw. Okay, so for example, I give you if I talk about cucumber by nature is cooling. So while usually you eat cucumber, usually most of the time you will eat cucumbers during summer. Why? Because cucumber is cooling. So during summer it's hot, so you want to cool you off. Or why, in this kind of spa or places like that, they will give you water with a bit of like a slice of cucumber because it's like cooling a little bit, but it's not as cooling as icy cold water. So it won't damage so much your digestive system. So like we give you a nice cooling effect and you will feel good out of it. Now let's have a look at the same food as I talked before, the 4 different common foods used in this training program, like broccoli, spinach, avocado, and chicken breast, and how we look at them in terms of Chinese medicine. So if I look at the broccoli, we'll look at, first, we'll look at the thermal property. That's very important to us because the thermal property will also help us to make sure that we don't damage the body of our client and patient. So let's say if I have a yang deficiency, which is your warming system is down, if I use more like cooling stuff, would that make my yang deficiency worse? Definitely. Okay. So if I tell my patient who is a yang deficient, feeling cold, cold hands, cold feet, these kind of things, and I say, okay, eat raw broccolis, he might end up having even more cold. Okay. What we look at after the thermal nature, we'll look at the flavor. So here for the broccoli, it's sweet and slightly bitter. So sweet is the flavor of earth, which is spleen stomach. Bitter, flavor of the heart, which is the fire, right? So you can see again, another element. It's green, so it should be good for my liver because of the color. And the flavor is sweet and slightly bitter. It will help through the flavor my earth and my fire element, right? So after that, we look at the organ network. What is it? Liver, spleen, stomach. Well, basically by the flavor and the color, I could know exactly what organ basically this food will actually help, right? Then we look at the therapeutic actions. In the case of the broccoli, the therapeutic actions is cools the liver, cools the blood. And then the last part we look at is how to prepare this broccoli. So here I put a non-exhaustive list of like preparing the broccoli, but we can do way more than that. We can steam, we can bake, we can boil. There are a lot of things we can do with it, okay? That's non-exhaustive. So that's how we will look at each food for Chinese medicine. That's the most important part. The thermal nature, the flavor, the network, the therapeutic actions, and the way to prepare. That's the best way for us to do. Let's look at avocados. Avocados for us, it's cooling. The flavor is sweet. The organ network is large intestine, liver, and lung. Also a little bit of spleen, stomach. Therapeutic actions, blood and yin tonic, and harmonize the liver. So it's got to give you more energy, more blood, more yin. Harmonize the liver, good for your liver function. You can use, most people will eat raw. We can bake it. There are a couple of recipes like baked avocado. It's really, really good. Or you can actually steam a little bit. So you make it a little bit softer, but still warm and still good. Not many people would do that. And not many people know that actually. So that's how you can do for avocado. Now, if I look at spinach, again, for us, spinach is cooling. The flavor is sweet. It will help the large intestine, the stomach, and the liver. Moisten dryness. So let's say if you tend to have, let's say at the moment we are in fall, which is most likely like dry skin, dry eyes, dry hair, these kind of things. So actually spinach is actually really good for that, to dry up this. It will ease bowel, so you have tendency to be like more on the constipation side. It will help to ease up a little bit, and it will nurture the liver. So really good for the liver, again, because it's green, right? And we can prepare differently. We can steam, we can saute, we can boil. There are also different type of cooking methods we can use for it. It's non-exhaustive. Last one is chicken breast. Okay, my chicken breast by nature is warm, and the flavor is sweet. The organ is spleen stomach, so earth mostly. It will nourish the chi, nourish the blood, and tonify kidney essence. These are the main substances in our body that will give you like strength and energy. How you can prepare roasted, baked, barbecue. So you can see how chicken breast is actually nonsense to eat barbecue during summer. During summer, it's basically warmer. We should barbecue basically mostly during like full winter when it's colder, because chicken is more warm. So by nature, it's warming. But then when I will grill it, it will be even more warm, even hot, right? So then why would I eat something hot when basically it's already hot and I need to cool down? And maybe my body itself is already warm. That's actually really bad for us, right? So there are some cooking methods that are not always well used during the seasons. We'll talk more about this during the connect as well. We use the barbecue as a social event, but we should also look at it as a good way to meal prep and to have a good nutrition value based on, I would say, the season and based on your body type again. Now here, another idea about the yin and the yang in terms of like cooking methods. So there are some cooking methods that will actually giving more cold. Some of them will be more neutral, and some of them will be more like adding some warmth. So you can see eating raw is more on the cold side. If you like pickling, fermenting is more on the cold side. Blanching, steaming is the most neutral ones. Smoking, frying, roasting, grilling, barbecuing, baking is most likely more on like adding like heat over there. And then boiling and simmering, you have a large, a large scale. It will depend on how long you will simmer and boil and how much water you will have inside. Okay, so you can see you have a good blend of the different like cooking methods, and based on this cooking method and based on the nature of the food itself, we can change it. And based on what, let's say, my patient is, if it's more on the cold side or warm side, I can actually adjust. And on top of that, according to the season, I can actually add as well. So you see, you have a lot of things to consider in terms of Chinese medicine. Now let's go back to the Western meal plan. I wanted to discuss a little bit about the plan itself in terms of like a Chinese med and why I do believe it's not the best for people. Green smoothie, we will never recommend that in terms of Chinese med, even though for Western science or Western med, you will say, well, it's actually like not so bad, only 340 calories. It's very balanced in terms of macros. It's great. But usually you can see there are a few things not so great. Greek yogurt, avocados, frozen mango. Usually it's more on the cold side. Plus in the smoothies, usually you add ice, which is even colder. Ice on our digestive system, even for Western science, it's actually really bad. I don't know if you followed, if you had your class of anatomy, physiology, but if you put in your stomach something which is very cold, let's say my stomach is around 37, I know it's a bit less, but let's say it's 37, I put something cold due to ice, then I will decrease my temperature of my stomach about a couple of degrees down. Then this will have an impact on my digestive of the protein. My pepsin will not be at optimum activation. Now, also things we don't know is about what is the pH, the stomach pH of my patients. Is it very low or is it higher, right? So this will have also another impact. So for us, we will never rely on like anything cold, anything raw. The rule of thumb for Chinese med is always cooked and warm. That's rule of thumb. We are not big fan as well of snacks. We get between 3 to 4 meals a day, but no snacks. Lunch, I would say lunch is really good. Chinese med, we recommend like veggies and soup because it's warm, it's cooked, easy to digest, easy to get. So we would do this. In my opinion, this is great, but it would be we should add something else, like another piece of protein cooked, and then some veggies as well. For example, exactly like we had like some steamed carrots or steamed zucchini or steamed broccoli or steamed cauliflower, things like that. this would be great. And if you want to add a little bit of rice, if you prefer, or even if you are on the colder side, you could add maybe a little bit of quinoa. That would be actually really good because quinoa is more on the warming side. After the snack, we would not recommend that because we don't do that. For dinner, as I mentioned before, the dinner would be really great. Very good in terms of protein. The salmon is more on the warming side. Carrots are more neutral. Broccoli is more cooling. And then sesame seed is more like neutral. So all over, it would be kind of a neutral meal. So I would say this one is not so bad. In my opinion, it's just missing a little bit of carbs. That's it. But if I look in terms of Chinese medicine, it's actually kind of balanced. So not so bad. Evening protein shake, the way it was offered, really bad again because of ice and because of frozen berries. Really bad idea. It would be cold inside your digestive system. You won't be able to digest so well. I know that people recommend things that are slow to digest because of thermic effect of the food. So you burn more calories, but burning more calories doesn't mean that you will actually absorb as much nutrients. So then over time, I think it will create more problem that you will help. Also, in my opinion, losing weight doesn't mean that you cannot get as much nutrient as you should do. That's the opposite. You should get as much nutrient, but you should be aware about the amount of nutrients. But you need to have good food to nourish your body to make sure all of your muscles are nourished properly, that you can get good muscles and keep on working very well. That's the way to lose weight, in my opinion. Here's an example of something we would actually suggest. For breakfast, oatmeal porridge, really good. We will always try to push people to get more things that are warmer earlier of the day for breakfast and lunch, and for dinner something more neutral or slightly cooling. Why? Because early on of the day, it's the yang qi, the yang phase. The yang phase goes from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then from 1 p.m. to 12 p.m., it will go down, and then that's the yin phase. So you want the most of the yang at the beginning of the day to give you the most of energy, the most warmth, right? That's what you want. So that's why we will do more like oatmeal. Oatmeal by nature is warming, so plus we will cook it so it will warmer. The berries are more on the cooling side for all of them, but they will not be frozen. Even though they would be frozen, as far as you will cook it as a porridge, it will be warming up, so it will be kind of neutral. Cinnamon is more warming, and honey will warming and giving you power. So all over it's a perfect power energy breakfast to start of the day. For lunch, I was talking about this earlier. I would use more let's say cauliflower rice, for example, and green cabbage. These two are kind of neutral. So if I saute them a little bit, it would be more slightly warmer. Pan ground beef would be slightly warmer. Dice of tomato would be a bit more cooling, so it will neutralize a little bit. And the fresh coriander will be some flavor. It's green, so help as well with the liver, and will harmonize and make things kind of neutral, maybe slightly on the warmer side, but mostly neutral, slightly warm. So you can see a lot of yang, a little bit less, still a bit higher. And then for dinner, most likely cooling. So it's almost similar as what you saw before, but I had a little bit more carbs by adding the millet. The steamed millet is more on the neutral cooling side. So you can see at the end of the day, I would have something a bit more neutral cooling to cool down, that it's perfect to go to bed. And if you would like, I know some people would like, because I talk about fitness training, people would like to have a protein shake just to make sure that they have enough protein for the day before bed. You could do the same protein shake, but I would use more for fresh berries or something more not too cold, and maybe some whey protein if you want to, even though that's not my best type of protein I would recommend. But that would be something more on the cooling side if you really would like it, but no ice at all, okay, and no frozen berries because it's too cold before bed. So that's an example of what Chinese med would be. You can see on the left, I would have only with this 3 to 4, I would have around 1,800 calories as well. Sorry, 1,800 calories. But if I look at all the meals, that would be way more beneficial for the people. You get way more energy from the beginning of the year of the day, for example, and then end of the day more cooling. So that would be perfect to replenish yourself, to get more blood, to recover from your trainings, and then the next day you can go on without injuries. That's how we would see it more. So I hope during this talk, I know it's kind of a brief access to comparison between Western and Eastern. It's only one aspect, definitely. I hope I could show you that cooking methods are not a bad thing. You can get more bioavailable like nutrients inside. You can change the composition of your macros as well. In terms of calories count, you need to be careful if it's cooked or if it's raw. It's not the same, and sometimes you get some differences between. So you need to take this into account. I really hope that you will focus a bit more on like looking at who is in front of you, what kind of body type you have, and how you can help the person you have in front of you and make it more personalized. In terms of Chinese medicine, that's what we do. And we look a lot about the thermal properties of the food, how we can change it, and how this can be absorbed to give the best results and the best nutrition for our patients for the best outcomes. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
That was great, Olivier. Thank you. So while everyone's typing their questions, I just want to let everyone know about the upcoming continuing education course that you're doing. So nutrition according to Chinese medicine. So a little bit of a deeper dive into, I imagine, some of the concepts that you shared today. So that's going to be online and open to everybody. Starts October 25th. Can you share maybe just a couple things of like what people can expect in taking that course?
Sure. So today we talk about the yin and the yang, and we talk about the 5-element theory. So we would go more in depth about understanding what is the yin and the yang, what does that mean, and how is it applied to everything we have on Earth and specifically for food. The 5-element theory. So what does that imply? How does that work? How you can apply it to people? How you can use it? You can use both of them to diagnose and deduct the body type of people. The second part would be talking about, I don't know if you pay attention in the slides regarding, the food itself. We have like, for example, the chicken that is more like tonifying blood, tonifying qi, nourish kidney essence. So that's what we call the vital substance. So we will learn about what are the vital substance, what they do, how they're made, and how you can help them to increase and to help people with that. We learn also about the Meridian Theory. So what are meridians, where they're running from, and how they target organs, how we can influence them. We also talk about definitely the 5 flavors, the 5 colors, the 5 thermal properties, the cooking methods, how this influence the food itself, and what to do when people are in the different cases. I'll talk a little bit about eating according to the season. So what we should eat, let's say, more in fall and winter compared to like spring and summer, how to prepare before the season is coming to make sure that you don't have certain disease coming up. And the last class, I would be basically doing a case study. I would present a case study at the same time cook in front of you about Chinese medicine to help this case. So you could see how we cooked, the type of methods we use, and how this can help the patient.
Awesome. Sounds really good. So yeah, so if anyone has any questions or interested in taking that course with Olivier, then reach out to any of us here at IHN and we can get you in touch with the right person for registration. You can email me directly. It's jason@instituteofholisticnutrition.com. Okay, so let's take a couple questions here. So I noticed that spinach had more fiber when cooked, but I always thought that cooking veggies broke down their fiber. Any comments? Can you explain a little bit more?
Well, if you remember, Chelsea, your biochem class. So basically, fibers is cellulose. So that's a branch of like a glucose linked together multiple times, linked in beta-1,4 glycosidic bond. So definitely, we don't have the enzyme to digest that, so that's why we call it cellulose, and usually it goes into our feces as a fibers this way. Now, when I say when you get more fibers, it's because when you cook anything, it will actually like cut a certain part of it. So let's say instead of having like a long branch like tree like this with the heat will cut some part of it. So basically in terms of like you are more bioavailable in some way. So if you look at the cellulose itself or fibers itself in terms of like fibers constitution or fiber structure as fibers, definitely you have less when you cook it, but in terms of amount, you will make it more bioavailable. So that's why it's like more bioavailable there. The other question you had regarding the microwave. So microwave, how does that work? Basically, it's you make your molecules shake to release the water out. So basically, when you shake, let's say any kind of a veggie, you will also shake your cells, right? Your veggies make a lot of cells, so you shake everything. So obviously, like more like vitamins or more like antioxidants or beta carotenes can be actually more like released from there. It's like you kind of like opening up your cells, so then it's more released, so it's more bioavailable. So that's why microwave can be actually way more helpful to release some macronutrients compared to other way of cooking. Now there are some other things as well with microwave and like how much. In this case, that was microwave only for 3 minutes. So 3 minutes is not that much, but like there is some other issues about like the waving and the microwave itself on the food and how this will have an impact after that on your body. That's another discussion as well.
So on with regards to the food colors, what impact on the body does the black have?
Black color is most likely water element. So water is kidney. So it will tonify the root of your body. So let's say most people, I think you guys are students and you're having a lot of like finals coming up. So you may be very tired. So that's why you have black cycles here. The black cycles, why is it black underneath your eyes? Because underneath the eyes, that's the kidney region. And why black? Because that's the color of kidney. So basically black color will tonify your kidney, give you the energy back to help you.
So an interesting question here from Michelle. What's a good method to shift a client's perspective to look at food this way? And I'm sure you deal with this in your practice, right? If you're sharing some of this stuff and people are hearing it for the first time, like how do you kind of shift that perspective?
Well, that's why when I meet people for the first time, I don't treat them right away. I will have a consultation with them first. And then based on, there are some other things to know the body type, which is looking at the tongue, taking the pulse, and asking a bunch of questions. So then I can make a thorough diagnosis and deduct exactly what's the body type of the person. But then I will explain them what's the body type and what's the problem with them. Based on that, explaining again with the yin and the yang and the 5-element theory, I will explain this way and let them know and say, okay, your problem, for example, you have a yang deficiency. So that's why you have cold hands, cold feet. You feel cold all the time. So now we need to find something to actually increase your warmth. So then we need things that are warmer to help you, or things that basically the cooking methods will use to actually increase this yang, for example. So like, let's say someone who's cold, I would suggest, that's perfect timing at the moment to use pumpkin in general, or squash, and cook it like as a soup. So that's a good way to get all the nutrients. Now we need, like we're coming close to winter, so then we need to have like root vegetables to nourish the roots, which is the kidneys, to make sure the kidneys are still like enough yang, because we will need the warmth, because winter is coming, we have more cold, so we need to fight the cold, right? So you need to replenish your heating system to make sure your heating system is so strong that basically you don't get cold. So we use more like root vegetables because we want to nourish the roots. That's why usually if you look at the seasonal veggies, they are most likely root veggies. Even though we would still want to eat tomatoes and cucumbers and salad, but technically we should eat more like, let's say, maybe not now, even though it's still a bit cold, but let's say later on during like winter, we should eat more like root veggies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is interesting. We live in a world where, we can get tropical fruit any time of the year, and we don't really eat to the seasons anymore, but there is something to be said about eating the food that's, naturally available in certain times.
Yeah. Now, answering the question about like how to let people know about the perspective, it's always difficult because most people have perspective. Like so many times I have people, when I ask the question of the diet to my patient, they're like, how's your diet? And then everyone is like, oh, it's very healthy. And I'm always smiling when people say that, because I have no doubt that it's smiling. But the main issue I have, and the thing I would like people to understand is like, we should stop saying healthy, unhealthy, because something that could be healthy or considered as healthy. For example, like spinach. Spinach is considered as healthy. But then for someone who is like very cold, who has a spleen Qi deficiency, that could be actually very unhealthy because it will make things worse. Mm-hmm. So we should actually think more about adapted to body type or not. That's the main things I want people to think about. It's very difficult nowadays. You have so many brands, so many diets going on. Like when I talk to these trainers and I see like the meal plan, and I got the meal plan for them, like you look at the meal plans, they are very similar. You don't see like much diversity. You don't think like they don't think too much. They try to do as fast as possible because they don't want to spend time on it, and they don't make customized meal plan or fitness plan. Even the fitness plan, you look at it, it's like very common, very basic, because they don't want to spend time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the conversation I have with anybody that's interested in the IHN program is, if you're looking for a template of, good foods, bad foods, you're not going to get it here, right? Because it is so individualistic and it depends on that person and their needs and what they're struggling with. And like you said, what could be healthy for one person could be harmful to another. So it's fascinating. So can a diet that includes intermittent fasting, low carb, high fat, could that way of eating be followed in a balanced TCM diet?
Well, I would say no in some ways, because the main organ in our body for Chinese medicine is earth, it's spleen stomach. And if you look at spleen stomach like mostly sweet flavor. And if you look at most of the carbs, they are more on the sweet side. Now you have different type of carbs, but we need the sweet flavor, and you need the sweet things to help the spleen stomach to actually like being able. So if you are too much high in fat, your spleen won't be able to digest it that well, and you won't get that much energy that fast. So if my spleen doesn't work really well, then I don't get enough energy, I don't make enough blood, and I get a lot of water retention. So I will get a lot of like phlegm and dampness, which would be like water retention for people. So people who are intermittent fasting and also with a lot of fat, I would say just be careful, because it might not be the best way to do in TCM. We won't do these kind of things. TCM is very like, every time people ask me what's the best diet, balanced diet. Chinese people will eat like 3 times a day, as I said, mostly. Big breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They will have dinner a bit earlier, maybe like 5, 6. Usually as soon as they finish working, they go and eat. Every time they eat always cooked and warm food, no matter what. I was in China during summer. I was eating like soup every day. But inside the soup, you have some veggies and some herbs that will actually make you cooling. So then this will help you to go over summer not feeling so hot, because the soup will actually like cool you down because of what the food you have inside the soup. But it won't damage your spleen and your stomach, so you'll still be able to absorb as much and keep on going and still work properly without feeling so drenched or so tired.
Cool.
So we love our grains and carbs. Like Chinese men love grains and carbs. Like we have only like, if you go to China, maybe now it has changed a lot. But when I went there, you won't find anywhere a place when they will give you salad. Like you will get soup, you will get cooked food. The only thing uncooked they will eat is most likely fruit. And usually fruit fruit is only maybe 5%, or uncooked food is around 5% of the diet. So it's almost nothing. It's mostly grain, carbs, proteins, and fat. But the fat is mostly like when they cook or part of the meat. So they will eat, for example, a lot of duck, or they will eat a lot of pork, which is like a lot of fat over there. They won't eat like specific, like they may have some nuts from time to time, but not that much. And if they have nuts, they will cook them in a soup. They won't eat them just like that. So it's a very different way, a different concept compared to Western science and Western medicine. It's very different approach.
Anything that you would suggest for someone dealing with low stomach acid? Well,
low stomach acid, I will think more about biochem. you need to look at it. I would suggest if you know, it's very difficult to know if you're low stomach acid or not. The only way usually is like if you feel like when you eat a lot of proteins, you're very tired and you feel bloated afterwards, it might be very difficult. So then you may tend to be more on the low stomach acid. So what I would recommend, I would use usually, that's what I said to my patient, take a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in a cup of warm water every morning. Or even if you feel like it's only when you eat, so maybe like even a little bit before and a little bit after. So you make a cup with a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You eat half before meal and half after meal. So it will help you on both sides to help digestion. Apple cider vinegar also the properties to help for the bile. So if you have some fatty food, it will help to dissolve a little bit as well. So it's another bad idea. Some people will use more lemon. I would say lemon is a bit more on the cooling side. It's not that bad. So if someone has low stomach acid, I would not. That means their spleen stomach is more on the deficiency side. So they tend to be more on the cold side. So I would not recommend lemon. So that's why I would go more for apple cider vinegar with a cup of warm water. So it's warm, it won't damage, and it won't increase your stomach acid. Lemon will be, even if it's in warm water, it will help a little bit, but it will be still more cooling. So I would be more careful with that.
Cool. Someone's got a request here for the 5 colors again. Did you have that slide handy that you could put that up for a couple seconds again?
Sure.
And then if anyone else has a couple final questions, we can take another question or two. You can type it in before we end the night.
Don't worry, Daniel, we'll talk about it on Wednesday. These are just general information over there. It's not like, the thing is like, as I mentioned before, Chinese medicine is very personalized. So we can always, I get people telling me like, oh, what can I do for this? Or what can I do for that? I can just give you maybe some general rules that are very general, but it's very difficult because I need to see the person. Until I see the person, see the tone, take the pulse, ask a lot of questions about their lifestyle, then I wouldn't know exactly what to say and recommend exactly what's the good for this. That's why Chinese medicine is very difficult for other people to understand, or for even Western science or Western medicine to accept, because it's so personalized. We cannot do like big studies, like making a study over like 100 people. It's impossible because everyone is so different. We need to make a formula. We need to make something which would be independent. If I do something general, it may not work on this population. So then people will say, well, it doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work. It's like, because you're different. If I modify a little bit what I have as a formula, maybe I take one out and add one more, or change the dosage, it will work perfectly for you. So my formula would be perfect because it's a personalized medicine and personalized formula. But make it like a Western med when it's like for like mass population, make it 80% of the time. It's not possible. That's why most of the studies in TCM are very difficult. It's most likely on like maybe some herb extract, but we don't like it so much because we don't use only one herb at a time. We always mix at least 2 because we want to target the problem and keep the rest balanced. You don't want to destroy something wrong, right? You want to make, like get results, but you want to keep the rest balanced. So that's what we do. But Western med is really, really good at like extracting the main principle, concentrate it, and just like go for the main problem. So they use like a big hammer to have like a small nail to hammer, right? Versus us, we'll say, okay, what size is the nail? Based on the size of the nail, we'll take the right size of the hammer to hammer it. That's the idea.
Great. No, that's a great metaphor. Okay. Well, thanks again, Olivier. That was great. Appreciate you taking time to share some of that. And again, if you're interested in doing the Con Ed course, Nutrition According to Traditional Chinese Medicine, and please reach out to us so we can get the registration process because that's going to start later this month. So thank you everyone for attending. Enjoy your evening. And Olivier, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you everyone for following and coming today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.